through, apparently some mystical means. In other words, it's a obfuscation and a mystification of the cosmos, the universe. So that was that first paragraph, which I'll read again. Don't mean to interrupt, but I think it's important for folks, including myself, to understand what's being said here. So, connecting to epistemology to politics, we are now in a position to address the question posed at the end of Chapter 1. Why has a leading segment of the political left adopted skeptical and relativist epistemological strategies? Language is at the center of postmodern epistemology. It's not only at the center of, and I'll break off here again. I'll try not to interject too much to interrupt the flow, but language is at the center of much more than just postmodern epistemology. It's critical. It's absolutely critical to human understanding. So back to the book. Moderns and postmoderns differ not only about content when arguing particular issues in philosophy, literature, and law. They also differ in the methods by which they employ language. Epistemology drive those differences. Oh, exactly. This is excellent. Epistemology asks two questions about language. What is language's connection to reality? And what is its connection to action? Epistemological questions about language are a subset of epistemological questions about consciousness. In general, what is consciousness' connection to reality? And what is its connection to action? Moderns and postmoderns have radically different answers to those questions. For the modern realists, consciousness is both cognitive and functional. And those two traits are integrated. The primary purpose of consciousness is to be aware of reality. The complementary purpose of consciousness is to use its awareness of reality as a guide to acting in that reality. For the postmodern anti-realists, by contrast, consciousness is functional, but it is not cognitive. So its functionality has nothing to do with cognition. Two key concepts in the postmodern lexicon, unmasking and rhetoric, illustrate the significance of these differences. Take a break for a moment from reading. That to a fellow such as myself, who was educated in public schools, who desires to communicate well, who believes that words are important, yet because of my, did I say diseducation? Diseducation in public schools, my abysmal neglect of history and of classical education, not so much purposeful neglect, but neglectful neglect. um, that this is a whole nother subject, but our public schools have become indoctrination centers, and I was thoroughly indoctrinated. I lived for many years as a heartfelt atheist, and thought science had all the answers, and uh, was actually very Marxist in my uh, political ideology. Not an activist by any means, but just very postmodern. I grew up in postmodernism. I lived it. Didn't really understand it, but I lived it, and so hats off to the emergent church fellows for thinking that this is a, a good platform for reaching people. But um, the interesting thing is, to what purpose? That's the interesting question. To what purpose? Actually, catering to postmodernism just leads to mystification. It leads to more diseducation, more neglect, and I am a modernist. I'm not ashamed of that. I know that is a term of derision for the postmodernists who think they're so clever. And, there was at one time or another, I found it a little, annoying to be called a modernist or a Cartesian. Yeah, yeah. Well, I'll say this to wrap up this portion of the video, and that is that I work in engineering, and we're Cartesians in engineering. We're all about building stuff. Uh, at this point in my career, I'm working for a company that designs bridges. And yeah, we have to be modernists. Uh, Concrete reality is our stock in trade. And things need to fit, and they need to go into position, and they need to withstand stresses. And if we don't meet those objectives, then we fail. And we fail people, and people get hurt. Um, that's just the bottom line. So postmodernism has no place in our business. And I'm not a split personality kind of guy where I think, well, I can be a modernist or a Cartesian, uh, in my work, and be a postmodernist and a Marxist in my private life. And those two things they just clash. I'm not going to make them try to live together. Propositionally, they're opposed. And I'm not down with the synthesis. Uh, Synthesis is evil. All right, well, let's see. We're 20 minutes into this, and I better cut this off. Thanks for listening.